Just when you thought the biggest day of the NRL off-season would be November 1, cheeky little Halloween rolls around and decides to absolutely throw this competition in the absolute air. Because we got 3 huge player stories, 2 we've known for some time, 2 of the mostly highly talked about things at the end of the grand final, and 1 that has absolutely come out of nowhere. So if you're working or you're at school, it's a busy day for the little battlers trying to commit to being a rugby league news page. And God, where is NRL 360 when you actually need it? Because we get storylines like Nicho Hynes for 2 straight weeks, and now Braith and the boys will literally have hours of things to talk about. But let's start with the big one. Josh Addo-Carr has officially been terminated by the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs effective immediately. He has played his last game for the Kennel since that breach of contract, going on a cheeky drive with a few little white spots up his nose. Now, I completely understand the Bulldogs wanting to get rid of Josh Addo-Carr. He's on a huge wicket. He signed them when the Dogs were really at the start of their rebuild, and part of me is sad that Fox is one of the first big name players to make the decision to go to the Bulldogs, signing him the same off-season as Matty Burton. It wasn't too long ago that he was without a doubt the fastest winger in the world, and probably, to be honest, until the rise of Brian To'o and Penrith, Fox was probably the best winger and on track to be one of the best wingers of all time. But again, just going to a club that's rebuilding when you are a winger, there's only so much you can do. And in quite a few years, Fox unfortunately got dropped in 2022, and everyone was defending him back then, and now Doggies fans are rejoicing now. It is sad that Josh Addo-Carr will never play a finals game for the Bulldogs as they've finally turned things around, but in saying that, I can't, because he literally got done the week that they were playing their first finals game in nearly 8 years against Manly. And considering the Dogs were probably the better side on that day, and Skilton unfortunately had a few errors, if Josh Addo-Carr's playing that game, maybe that's all it takes for the Dogs to get the win. It does throw this Ezra Mam situation up in the air, which I'm still not going to talk about because, again, like I've said in previous videos, that whole situation does sound pretty etched. But on face value at the moment, it does seem that Ezra's not going to be getting the sack. And to be fair to Fox, Braden Trindle at the start of this season, he got done for the exact same thing. Went to rehab, but the Cronulla Sharks see that Braden Trindle's a big part of their future, so they keep him. And unfortunately, in rugby league, they don't care about the exact situation. Yes, what Josh Addo-Carr did was so dumb, but plenty of NRL players have done a lot worse. I am not condoning it, but all we have to talk about is Lachlan Lewis, who literally got sacked for stealing a club speaker and trying to sell it on eBay, which is one of the dumbest things that only could ever happen in rugby league, which is why it's the greatest sport on earth. But it doesn't matter how many good lawyers you got. All that comes down to, when it's these situations like Ezra, like the Fox just faced, is how important you are to the organisation. And Josh Addo-Carr is on a big wicket as the Dogs have finally turned things around. They're going to be up to pay a few of their boys some huge upgrades, and they're still looking for that big dog front row to take him into premiership contention. So I can definitely see why the Bulldogs did it. At the end of the day, Josh Addo-Carr did breach his contract. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and when you're Josh Addo-Carr, you know how much money you're being paid to be a winger, because that was the contract you signed when the Doggies were absolutely on their knees for a superstar. It did seem when this first happened, the Dogs were going to try and leverage it. Obviously, no club was willing to chip in and pay Fox that much. It's a shame for the Dogs because they did let go of Skelton. I guess Blake Wilson comes in, and let's be honest, wingers, if the Dogs really want someone now that they've got that spare money in the salary cap, I'm sure they're going to be making a move. And the other big talking point was the King. Clint Gutherson has been released by the Parramatta Eels after a mutual agreement. No confirmation of where he will land as yet. To be honest, by the time this video goes up, that could have well been sorted. It does seem like he is going to the St. George Illawarra Dragons, which is a great get for them. It does suck. I do think if they had Gutho and Ben Hunt, that could be a really good spine that could take the Dragons to the next level. But they're missing Hunt. They're also missing Lomax, to be fair. So I do think it is a bad time for Gutho to go to the Dragons, but I do think it's a great get for the Dargans. And I'm happy that Gutho is still going to be getting paid a heap, because a lot of Eels fans have been quick to turn on Gutho, which is really surprising. I mean, he's literally their most successful captain of the NRL era. And And to avoid a wooden spoon, because they mismanaged their starting halfback with his injuries, Gutho literally played through a torn quad and 3 broken ribs, and yet Eels fans will say that he's slow, when I guess that even half of them wouldn't be able to get out of the bed with those injuries, and he's out there playing in the most hardest competition that you could argue in world sport. And look, I'm not the biggest Eels fan, and I know all clubs are treating as NRL becomes more and more professional of how much a ruthless business it is, but they have honestly been disgraceful. There's been whispers for years about Gutho being moved out of fullback because they want one of these X-Factor players, when if you really look at it, Gutho is a fit as fullback. I mean, Dylan Edwards has really moulded his game on the way Gutho played, and Gutho's one of the best ball-playing fullbacks, which really suits a game plan that includes Mitch Moses and Dylan Brown. We've already got enough running threat with those boys. They've been floating the idea of moving him to the centres. I mean, this past off-season, what are they talking about? There were rumours they wanted him to play front row, lock, or a utility off the bench, and the best part about that is we never heard any pushback from Gutho's camp, and knowing the bloke and competitor Gutho is, how much he absolutely loves Parramatta by the fact he knows how much of a meme he's become with all his whinging to the refs and the flopping he does, because he's out there trying to win games, and that's all that Gutho cares about. I've got no doubt Gutho would have said yes, sweet, and agreed to it. The Parramatta Eels would have gone, damn it, seeing that they would have thought Gutho would have blown up about it, and now, when there was literally a week left, they decided to let Gutho negotiate early. This has all the signs that the Eels have just forced Gutho out of their club, and the way they've treated him over the years is really poor. They gave him that contract, and the new cap, it's not even that bad. I guess they're going into a rebuild, but I've got to be very careful if I'm Parramatta, because Mitchell Moses' value has just skyrocketed, and if I'm Moses, I'm looking at the Eels, and they're not winning a comp for another couple years. I wish Gutho all the best. I know he's got no ill towards Parramatta, but I do, because the way you've treated your captain, one of your club legends, is the reason why you've never won a comp since dinosaurs roamed the earth. Now, we expected both those Gutho and Fox stories. I mean, I could have probably prepared both of those videos earlier, but out of nowhere on this Halloween evening, Terrell May, one of the best front rowers in the game, definitely towards the younger age. I mean, he's been a beast. He was nearly talked about for State of Origin this year, and out of nowhere, the Roosters have given him permission to leave, and it can't be a salary cap issue. First of all, because the Roosters don't have a salary cap, but also they've just lost Warrior-Hargraves, they've just lost Mano, they've just lost Suoliti. They're going to be making a play for Stags, Cobbo, one of these outside backs. You'd be thinking that Terrell May, along with Spencer Leniu and Lindsay Collins, would be the core of this forward pack going forward after Jared Warrior-Hargraves. But the more you know, the only thing outside of something that's about to come out, which I really hope doesn't happen, because while it is funny, some of the stuff, I get that these blokes actually run into each other as hard as they can for a living, but even I'm not this dumb. Now, there's the big elephant in the room. That's obviously Tyrone, who had one of the great rugby league years off field. There are a bunch of words that I could use to describe what Tyrone seems like. Maybe he's a good bloke, but from the outside looking in, we all know that there's plenty of words that I could use to describe him. But for Terrell, all he's really had is that moment where he was being talked about to play for the Blues, and he said go Queensland in a Sydney Roosters video. And while I was a New South Welshman, that makes me never want to see him put on the sky blue ever. It's really not that bad. So maybe this is just maybe a character issue for Robbo. In saying that though, there are so many clubs who are lining up. I just talked about how much Tommy Hazelton could get paid because all these clubs are looking for a big dog front rower to turn their pack around. You chuck in Terrell May, he could honestly get close to 800 to 900k, granted there's no off-field issues. Terrell will have to wait and see. Like I said, hopefully there's nothing that's dropped before this video goes out that's too etch a bet Terrell May. But if I'm a Bulldogs, if I'm a Manly, if I'm a Newcastle, I am going hard at a guy like Terrell May, because maybe not next year, but even then, he started the Sydney Roosters back, so maybe if you get the best out of him next year, he could really elevate your club to a top 4 team. But I guess we will just wait and see. But 3 players have been let go by their clubs. Who says we don't have an NRL transfer window? Because we have something better. We have an NRL sacking window. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on all 3 of these situations in that comment section down below. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and of course, I'll see you in the next one.